Okay, this is another plot point, and I did some replaying again, and now we should have a little bit of a different segment. Sweat broke out on his upper lip. Ethan closed his eyes. No. Ethan said it with firm clarity. All the following words that came out of his mouth were more and more quiet, until his lips moved silently. No. I'm sorry. I can't help. I'm so sorry. He really was sorry. Sorry about his former life. Sorry for himself, desperately, to the point his stomach clenched with a painful spasm. Sorry for Hope. Sorry for the poor writer who was being dragged deep into a cold vortex of darkness. But what could he, Ethan, do against that darkness? He failed. Maybe he had the skill to get the answers required, but they were buried too deep. At that depth, the water turned pitch black, and there were things in that blackness Ethan didn't know the names of. Didn't want to know. He took a deep breath, as if he was actually about to dive. Then he deleted the email. The letter with the title Untitled disappeared into the dark vortex. The frantic, terrified pleas for help were erased, leaving no trace, as if they had never existed. No, it's not like that. Hope once told him it was a bad time for Ethan to recall this. The information on the internet doesn't really disappear after you click delete. Most often, it remains somewhere on the servers until you just lose access to it. Turn the mirror to the wall and pretend like it's your fancy. There was nothing wrong with the reflection. In that case, the silent scream didn't vanish. It was now trapped. Trapped, no one could hear it. I'm so sorry. He then covered his face with his hands. The mirror on the wall of Ethan's dark bathroom was reflecting a closed door. Ethan and Hope got an official divorce 3 months later. They never talked about everything that happened. But what did actually happen? Over time, the horrors you experience get erased from memory, fade, weaken. Such are the defense mechanisms of the human psyche. Dad loves you and never stood silently at the head of your bed, clutching a pillow in his hands for some reason. When you were 8, Uncle Jeremy didn't take you behind the barn, didn't show you anything, or make you show anything. Grandmother's old wig does not and never has had any long spider legs. Ethan's psyche had notably suffered, but was playing by the rules still. He wanted simple, coherent explanations, and he knew where to get them. Dr. Laura Stein was an island of clarity and sanity, and the horrors, as Ethan had discovered, fade from memory much better if you break them down into phallic symbols. Ethan wished he'd started therapy sooner. Who knows? Maybe most of that nightmare could have been avoided. The police never figured out what happened, but even the clumsy versions suited Ethan much better than what he remembered. what he allegedly remembered. Week after week, Ethan felt like he was gradually recovering. Of course, he had to give up his career as an independent consultant in favor of a more predictable office job. But at least he had the money for proper therapy. And at some point, a small incident happened. Dr. Stein introduced an electronic registration system. As goes with electronic registration systems, something went wrong on the second or third week. It turned out that 3 people had an appointment in the same time slot. Mr. Quinn's, Mr. Harrison, and Mrs. Murley's. The meeting felt awkward at first, but the tension faded surprisingly quickly. By mutual agreement, Mr. Quinn's was the first to go to Dr. Stein's office. Ethan and Hope were left alone on the couch. They were both smiling, a little tense, but overall happy. Since they met like that, they decided to go out for coffee and talk about various things, because they hadn't spoken in a long time. Then at some point they decided to hold hands. The next day they were hardly keeping their eyes open, because they only managed to sleep for a total 3 hours. And that was inevitable, as in a relationship you always have to sacrifice something.
Who was that?
Hope leaned over the arm of the sofa and I looked at Ethan curiously. He shrugged. A literary agency. One of the few I haven't disgraced myself in front of yet. They're looking for enough of a boring guy to be their historical consultant. The working schedule is something about a whole day and most nights, 7 days a week.
So what did they say?
That I am a happily employed office worker and I hardly enjoy cooler water.
Are you serious? Ethan, don't be silly. We both know this is your true calling. I understand this kind of work takes a lot of time, but you could quit the office job and...
I could, but I don't want to. It's my turn to bring the mammoth to the cave. What about your calling? I know well enough how hard you worked to make this startup of yours survive. Who would make a homeless cat Tinder, if not you?
Well, actually, there is quite a variety of animals in our database. You'd be surprised. Recently, someone has booked a mini pig.
A mini pig? Like an actual pig, but portable?
Yeah. Well, kind of. The mini part stands for 100 pounds instead of a good 600. People get crazy over cute piglet photos and think this is it, but in reality, wait a minute. Don't try to change the subject.
I didn't even think about it. Hope sighed, frowning.
I don't want you to give up on your dream.
I'm not giving up on anything. And anyway, I do understand that Miss Murley's won't marry an ordinary office clerk. But I have a plan.
Oh, come on.
A sofa cushion slapped against Ethan's cheek. Hope tried her best to look serious, but she was too pleased to pull it off. Besides, she was burning with curiosity.
What's the plan?
I'm writing a book. On mythology.
Wow. So now you're not only a popular history consultant, but also a talented writer. Guess I'll start getting used to that thought.
Ethan grinned. Something of that sort, yes.
And
seemed to hope, just for a brief moment, that Ethan's eyes became round and shiny pools of black nacre. The chthonic gods of ancient Greece. Blue Lights Hotel. Do you want to go back? The light from a single source is split with a half-silvered mirror. The resulting beams are each reflected by a series of mirrors. Expect them to combine at some point. I'm not saying it's safe. All I'm saying is... Sorry. All I'm saying is we are observing the experiment. Happy Dreamland. Fear not the devil, but the god, for he walks among us and his eyes are hungry. There are mirrors behind mirrors and doors behind doors. Some of them not like the other. December 15. J stands for jerk. Brought a stuffed cat to school and left it on my desk. He thinks it's funny. They all think it's funny. I hate everyone.
とある雨の夜に見知らぬ綺麗な人が玄関先に現れた。君は彼女